Well, we interrupt this part of our newscast to go live right here in Tehran as the leader of the Islamic Revolution is about to address the volunteers.
The leader is reciting prayers from the Holy Quran. The leader is reciting prayers from the Holy Quran.
Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah
The leader is reciting Quranic verses and prayers.
أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد من زيارتك السلام على الحسين.
The leader is reciting prayers commemorating Imam Hussein.
وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام.
The leader is reciting prayers commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hussein and his faithful followers. Today's meeting is a very important one. Basij is the manifestation of the grandeur of the nation and the efficient power of the country. And this session is a meeting of commanders. Tens of thousands of Basij commanders have converged on here. Actually, a large number of Basij, which comes from the popular force, and this large number shows the grandeur of Basij. For all those who are supportive of the country and the government, this is a source of satisfaction, hope, trust. And Basij is, and also for the ill-wishers and the enemies of the country, Basij is a source of fear. The coincidence of the Basij week with the period of mourning for the Imam Hussein, which commemorates the large epic of the history of Islam, that is Ashura. This coincidence is an auspicious event. The great event remain actually Zainab the Great epic, which is, may God bless her soul, who is actually a complement of the Ashura event. In one sense, you can say that the epic created, that the great Hazrat Zainab created, that epic revived the actually Ashura event. The grandeur of what Hazrat Zainab did, we cannot actually describe that grandeur in comparison with other great events. It is not comparable to other great events of history. That event should be compared to the Ashura event itself. And to be true, to be honest, Ashura event and the event created by Hazrat Zainab are complementary. This great lady of Islam and also of the whole humanity managed to stand up to the whole lot of hardships and problems, and she managed to resist the problems. Even her voice didn't begin to shake. A person who was under a lot of hardship and problems. Both in confronting the enemies and also in resisting the hardships and miseries and bitter events of the time. She stood like a strong mountain and resisted, and she became a role model for others, and she became a role model for others. In the Kufa bazaar at that time, she was being held captive. At that time, she recited those prayers. She recited that sermon, which includes prayers. And actually, that sermon was in that sermon she criticized the people of Kufa at that time, who were not loyal to Imam Hussein and turned their back on Imam Hussein. The prayers in her sermon are very strong, very meaningful. And those prayers have very deep meaning. In that situation, she was strong as Imam Ali. She got her message across. And she managed to influence hearts and minds of people, and of course to influence the history. That famous sermon went down in history while talking to the people while she was being held captive, and also in front of the despot of the time. She spoke so strongly that also both in front of Ibn Ziyad, the despot of the time, and also a few weeks after that in front of Yazid, another despot of the time. Her sermon, she spoke so strongly that she both humiliated the enemy and also she actually managed to annul all those problems inflicted by the enemy. Actually, they wanted to defeat the household of the Prophet Muhammad, but to no avail. Actually, Hazrat Zainab is the epitome of dignity. Also, as Imam Hussein was also the epitome of dignity on Ashura Day. The way he looked at the events was a different look from how others looked at the events. All those hardships and problems imposed by the enemy, Imam Hussein said that Imam Hussein resisted all those. Imam Hussein said, whatever I saw was beautiful, whatever I saw was martyrdom, but it was in the path of God in order to preserve and protect Islam. And that martyrdom set in motion a great wave in history, so the Islamic Ummah would understand how they should move forward, in what path they should set foot, and how they should resist problems and the enemy. That was the great epic of Ashura and Hazrat Zainab as well. This is the dignity brought by Hazrat Zainab. Hazrat Zainab is one of the greatest people, closest people to God, and she managed to protect, to endear and protect Islam and the Holy Quran. Of course, we are not we don't have that much as much perseverance, and we cannot say that it's very hard to say that she's a role model for us. It's very hard for us to be on a par with her. However, our movement, our actions must be in such a way, we must be in such a way that we follow in her footsteps. Our perseverance, the dignity of Islam, the dignity of the Islamic human beings, the Islamic society, the same thing that God Almighty has bestowed upon us with Islamic teachings, and actually God has instructed the Imams and all of us to follow Islamic precepts. First of all, I would like to mention briefly for you, dear Basijis, the Basij youth, is that one of the factors that contribute to this patience, contributed to Hazrat Zainab's patience and boosted her patience, and also patience in other people of God, was honesty. Honesty. Actually, it is to honestly swear allegiance to God, to have an honest heart, and to act in the way of God with honesty. This is very important. In the Holy Quran, this honesty is something which is which is a must for Imams and prophets, for all prophets and Imams. The leader is reciting prayers from the Holy Quran. We asked you, Prophet Muhammad, to renew allegiance to us. We actually got allegiance from Prophet Moses and all other prophets. And this allegiance is a very strong and deep-rooted allegiance. And the result of this allegiance, this divine allegiance, is that the great prophets are questioned by God concerning how honest they have been in swearing that allegiance. Our prophet and other divine prophets, they have to actually be answerable to God how honestly they swore that allegiance to God. Honesty is very important. This is for prophets and Imams. And as for the ordinary people and other faithful people, the leader is reciting Quranic verses.
ليجزي الله الصادقين بصدقهم ليجزي الله الصادقين بصدقهم ويعذب المنافقين إن شاء.
As for great prophets and Imams, actually in Holy Quran, we call that compared to honest people, the Holy Quran says pagans. Actually, and also those two-faced people are those who are against Muslims. And we will also be held accountable for that, how honest we have been about the allegiance we have made to God. And in this Quranic verse, this allegiance that the Muslim people have made to God, and some faithful people actually have remained committed to their allegiance, They have remained firm behind their allegiance. This allegiance is the same concept which has been mentioned in this Quranic verse. You should, all of us should pay attention to these points. They had made allegiance to God Almighty. They had promised not to turn their back on the enemy and escape. In confronting the enemy, they had promised, they had vowed to remain steadfast. While confronting the enemy, turning back on the enemy and